Hi, I'm Jo Huey. I'm a personal change expert, author, and adult child of an alcoholic. Being an adult child of an alcoholic has meant that I have experienced low self-esteem living with my father's alcoholism. As a child, all I ever heard from him was, when are you going to change? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? And so for me, I felt like I wasn't enough. I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't okay being me. And even though he didn't say those words specifically, that's pretty much the message that I took from what he was saying. So how does our self-esteem as a child then impact in our adult life? Well, of course, if we're not going to deal with any of these issues that we experience as children, they're going to directly impact the life that we lead as an adult. So if I'm not going to face the issues that, I had from my father, then this impacts how I feel now in the present. So I've done over 20 years of self-development and changed how I feel about myself, and the tips and the things that I share in this video and the rest of the recovery program for self-esteem that I offer is all about looking at your strengths and looking at how you can be fabulous because you are, and the fact that you deserve to know that. So this video is really just an introduction to explain a little bit more about the dynamics that work in a family, so the different roles that you might have played, and also something called the drama triangle, which is really interesting, and how all of these things would have affected your self-esteem. So there will be some difficult things to look at, and I can honestly say that it is really worth it. And I know that some people can be apprehensive about that, but I'm always available if you need to chat. And I've also got the closed Facebook group, Change Your Mind. So if you want to discuss anything in there, you can, or you can get in touch with me directly. So let's get started.
Everyone needs to feel good about themselves, to know they're worthy of love and that they deserve it. Self-esteem is so easily lost, but it is a lot more difficult to regain. I'll take you through some key areas that affect self-esteem in families of alcoholics. It may not be obvious why your self-esteem has been affected. I explain this in more detail in this video. There is hope, and there are lots of tools and techniques to help you. So you can feel fantastic about yourself and know that you're a great person capable of anything. Living in a home of alcoholism isn't a healthy place to grow up. It's very complex, and a lot of things go on that as children you don't understand. It's not until your adult life that you start to notice problems. And from my experience, a lot of people don't know that their present issues are connected to their past. In homes of alcoholism, you often don't learn about boundaries, self-control, self-care, and many other things. Often parents are absent because of their drinking. If you've experienced both parents or caregivers that were drinkers, you probably had to look after yourself and possibly any siblings you have. This in turn can make you an overly responsible adult years later, as well as having to be an overly responsible child at the time. This also impacts how easy you find it to have fun. Usually this can vary depending on your temperament. You can have more than one child grow up in the same environment and interpret things very differently. One may use fun as a way to make light of the situation and cause distraction. The other would take it seriously and follow the rules. Alcoholics are very concerned with themselves and their drink. This brings about negativity in the home, and they can be negative towards family members. Children often bear the brunt of that, and it has a direct impact on your self-esteem. Negative comments are made, and if that happens regularly over a period of time, it sticks and it stays with you. As children, we believe what our parents tell us. We've got no reason to doubt it. There is a lot of shame and blame in homes of alcoholism. The alcoholic blames everyone for their actions. They want to detract from their own guilt. I felt shame around my dad's drinking, especially if friends noticed his behaviour. I felt worried and embarrassed. There are 3 roles that play out in the drama triangle: the persecutor, rescuer and victim, which are typical in a home of alcoholism. For most people, they aren't aware of this, and it can have a direct impact on your self-esteem. You can play more than one of these roles in any given situation. Everyone is fighting for the victim role. It may not be directly obvious, but none of these roles are healthy. No one asks directly for what they want. The interactions that happen within each of these roles can have a direct impact on your self-esteem. The victim can start to feel sorry for themselves and in turn feel low, which affects how they feel about themselves. The persecutor can have a more critical nature, which hides their need to be vulnerable, so they aren't able to be themselves. The rescuer can feel like they're doing a good deed for it to be rejected, which can then hurt their feelings and damage their self-esteem. The persecutor likes to persecute others in order to make themselves feel better. This rarely works, and it isn't a healthy way to improve your self-esteem. They can appear powerful on the outside, but really they're weak and powerless on the inside. They cover up their fears of failure and their need to be in the victim role. They're often jealous of the victim because they can see how they get the kind of special treatment that the persecutors ultimately want. The rescuer tends to look out for and help others, sometimes to the detriment of their own well-being and self-esteem. They can often feel powerless, and so they rescue others to gain a sense of power. Rescuing people allows rescuers to look important, competent, and feel superior. Rescuers' acts often come with a woe is me message. If the good will of the rescuer is rejected by the receiver, they can then get angry, and then this is how they can easily move into the persecutor's role, saying things like, "I was only trying to help you." The victim feels sorry for themselves. They tend to have this poor me feeling. They don't tend to take responsibility for their own feelings or how they act. They can also get angry and use guilt and shame to get people to feel sorry for them. They want someone to blame for their feelings and problems. They are seeking the rescuer to come and take care of them. This can create a sense of powerlessness. So if you feel powerless, you don't feel able or capable to do things for yourself, even though you are. By playing any of these roles, they'll impact how you feel about yourself and impact your relationships with others. There are 5 different survival roles that play out in a home of addiction. I've definitely played a good few of these, and I'm guessing you might have too. I'll give a brief explanation of each of them. The enabler. This is the person that tends to step in and cover up the actions of the addict. They may do this for a number of reasons, often to protect others, prevent embarrassment, avoid conflict, and have some sort of control over the situation. When they clear up after the addict, it takes away the consequences. This can create feelings of responsibility, which affect how you feel about yourself, like you can't put yourself first because others' needs are more important. The hero. The hero will divert the attention off of themselves by being high achievers. It's usually a facade. Ultimately, the hero has a fear of failure. Putting a lot of pressure on yourself affects your self-esteem because if you don't meet your expectations, you feel like you failed, which of course you haven't, but if you keep doing it, you start believing it. The scapegoat. The scapegoat is the person that takes the blame for the distress in the home environment. This is an assumption that whatever is going wrong is down to one person that ends up being the scapegoat. They create problems to deflect from the real issue. They're usually the most hurt and depressed member of the family unit. Taking the blame when it isn't your fault affects how you feel about yourself. You think it's your fault that something has happened. There are always more people involved, and each person has to take responsibility for their part. If you take on everyone's responsibility, sometimes it can come across like you're being a martyr. You deserve to feel good, and to be honest, we all make mistakes, and why would you want to take on somebody else's? The lost child. The introvert and shy member of the family. They'll occupy themselves away from the rest of the family, reading, playing games, or something that takes them out of the family environment. They do this in order to avoid conflict. They're often the first to leave home. They are often depressed and lonely, very disconnected to the rest of the family. Avoiding conflict can be helpful in a home of alcoholism, but when that starts to carry on into your adult life, you can feel isolated and disconnected. It can be hard to open up to others, and it can affect how you feel about yourself. Everyone needs to feel connected. The mascot. The mascot is the extrovert with good social skills and the life and soul of the party. This is usually a front. They use laughter and a distraction from the stress that is going on at home. Being able to face difficulties in life is not something children of alcoholics are generally taught or learn about. As adults, a lot of people use some form of distraction to cope with difficult times. Sometimes that can be an addiction, whether it's shopping, sugar, self-harm, drink, or something else. This can be a punishment to yourself, and it directly affects how you feel about you. Avoiding your true feelings when something happens, in my experience, only makes it worse, whether that's in the short term or long term. It's hard to know about self-esteem if it isn't something that you've been taught about. For me, it wasn't something that was spoken about in either a direct or indirect way. It's easy to say we need self-esteem, and there's a lot of information out there on the topic. I'm going to speak to you about my own learning, what I found out about from the perspective of living with an alcoholic. Now, I've managed to improve my self-esteem, and I can understand how important it is and the impact it's had on my life. That's really hard to value when you're coming at it from a place of low self-esteem. When you have self-esteem, it means that you can accept yourself as you are, all aspects of yourself. You let go of judgments about being perfect, getting things right all the time, and punishing yourself. You can recognise your abilities, and not in an egotistical way, but you're proud of yourself. You feel confident, and you know you're capable of achieving whatever it is you've set out to do. But if it doesn't go how you hope, you're okay with that. You learn, and then you move forward. What other people say about you doesn't upset you, to the point it really knocks you. You can tell the difference between what's your stuff and what's somebody else's. I hope that sounds like something you'd want. I know it's something that you can get because I've done it myself. Believe me when I say that you deserve to feel good about yourself. You may have heard a lot of things that say otherwise, but what other people say isn't fact. People have their own issues and often project them onto other people. You deserve to feel loved, be respected, and feel good about yourself, among a lot of other things. You might still believe what someone else has said to you, something that hasn't encouraged self-esteem but diminished it. You can always choose whether you believe them or not. I know this can run deep. You can choose to write positive statements that are the opposite of what someone has said to you, and make them visible to you everywhere. The more you see it, the more you'll start to believe it. A simple visualization technique to help you is that whenever you have negative feelings about yourself, close your eyes, see the image, and play around with it. If it's really close to you, move it further away. Change whatever negative parts of the image bother you. Replace it with something that you want instead. Play around with the colours, size, sounds, and feelings. Then notice the change. This one isn't an easy one to hear, but I feel it's really important, and it certainly has a massive impact on your self-esteem. If you're serious about wanting to feel better because you deserve it, then I encourage you to bear with me and explore this. Make sure you've got some support should you need it. I'm always available if you need to talk anything through. First, just make sure you're sat with your feet on the ground. Imagine roots going through the floor into the ground beneath you. This just helps to ground you. Also, I want you to think about something that makes you feel super safe. That could be being with a certain person, in a certain place. Whatever it is, imagine it and know you can go there at any point in this video. Pause the video until you're ready to move on. Negative comments from parents, caregivers, and any others in your life have an impact on your self-esteem, especially when it's regular and over a period of time. When you're a child, you soak it all up because you don't know any different. You aren't to blame for what others have said or done to you as a child. Remember that adults are human beings and they make mistakes. They don't know everything, and decisions they make, actions they take, have profound impact on children in their care. Their intention isn't always negative, but nonetheless the consequences are still very real. You may have experienced physical abuse. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail here, but I want to make the connection that your experiences, whether emotional, physical, or spiritual, are affected by people in your life when you're a child. This happens when you're an adult too, if your self-esteem is low. Often you can blame yourself. There can be shame about what's happened, even though logically you may know that you couldn't control what happened. You may still blame yourself for it. This affects how you feel about yourself, and I definitely recommend working with me on a one-to-one basis when you're ready. You may feel that you were abandoned as a child. This could be physically abandoned or emotionally because the alcoholic or another caregiver wasn't around. If this has happened to you, I've been there. I know what it's like. Maybe you're still searching for connection, to be valued and understood. You deserve that. It can be hard to have empathy for others that have mistreated us because they have made bad choices. Drinkers in our lives can neglect us as children. They don't do it on purpose, but the hurt it causes is very real. This affects your self-worth, and you can feel that you're not loved and cared for. This can be carried into our adult life, and relationships can be affected because you still think that you aren't worth loving. Parents and caregivers can often have high standards and expectations, and this can put a lot of pressure on you as a child, and you feel more responsible than you should as a child. If this then carries on into your adult life, you can feel like everything's down to you. When things go wrong, it's your fault. And then you can take on their high standards and expectations into your adult life, which isn't healthy. Judging yourself and giving yourself a hard time only makes you feel worse about yourself. Knowing you're doing the best you can and believing in a higher power can take away that pressure. You aren't that child anymore, and you don't have to believe what everyone told you, especially when it has a negative impact on you. It's okay to change what you have been taught and told. Any disappointment that you felt can make you feel you aren't good enough. Again, this links to expectations your parents or caregivers had. In time, you may be able to let go of that hurt towards them, if you have any. You are a worthy human being. You have just had a tough time, but I can guarantee you that you can overcome these negative thoughts and emotions with my program. I've transformed my life because I didn't want to be like my parents. I wanted more from life and more from myself. You can have that too. Small steps is good. Feeling safe is important, and that will make you more comfortable about facing any change you're looking for. For me, safety has always been a very important thing. It affects so many aspects of your life, and this applies to both physical and emotional safety. When you feel safe, both physically and emotionally, you feel good in yourself, your self-esteem is better. Physical safety as a child is usually a challenge, especially if you've experienced an aggressive or abusive parent. It can be hard to make your home a safe place. As an adult, you have total control over your safety. You can choose how to do that, whether that's in your home, workplace, or anywhere. Once you know what's important to make you feel safe, because everyone's different, you can look to put things in place to make that happen. So if it's important for you to have home security, then that's fine. Or when you go out, maybe you want to carry personal security or take a self-defense class. Whatever it is, you can look into it and put something in place. If you don't know, then ask and find out from friends or colleagues. Emotional safety is linked to boundaries. I talk about this in my What Everyone Should Know About Relationships ebook, and the Bring Some Mindset Magic to Your Relationships module. To feel safe emotionally, you need to be open and vulnerable with people you're in a relationship with. It takes trust, and you have to take a risk. Small steps are a great start. Knowing you can trust someone emotionally will help you feel safe because you know what you say is in safe hands. Knowing they aren't going to judge you, but listen and support you. Do you feel that when you express how you feel to someone, that you're in safe hands? That's what you want to achieve, to know you can let go and know that someone will catch you. Next, I'd like to go through an emotional freedom technique demonstration with you, focusing specifically on self-esteem. Emotional freedom technique is used to let go of negative energy in your body using the fingertips on certain points of the body whilst repeating a set phrase. And this technique is going to release any stuck energy in your body and any emotional attachment you have to it. It's an amazing technique, and I truly believe that this will really help you, and you can use this on all sorts of things, whether it's an emotional issue or a physical pain or symptom in your body. So let's get started.
Hello and welcome to this demonstration of emotional freedom technique for your self-esteem. So for those of you that haven't had a look at my videos on using emotional freedom technique, you might want to pause this video and go and take a look at my YouTube channel, which the links are all on my website, johuey.co.uk. There's a EFT breathing demonstration, which is amazing. So you might want to have a follow along with that and then return back to this video when you're ready, or you can just carry on with this video and see how you get on. So emotional freedom technique, as I've explained, is a tapping technique. So I'm going to be tapping on certain parts of my body, and what I would suggest is that you follow along and tap on the points that I'm tapping on. So you've got the end of the eye, I might take off my glasses for ease, underneath the eye, underneath the nose, the chin, the collarbone, just underneath there, underneath the armpit, so where the bra strap is for the ladies. And I like to go back to this point just so it's like a complete circle. You don't have to. So that's basically a round of tapping. And when we do this, we're going to be saying a set phrase before we start. And also what you might want to do is measure how you feel about this particular issue, about your self-esteem on a 0 to 10 scale. So you might be thinking about something specific, something that a parent or caregiver has maybe said to you growing up, or something you've heard from somebody that has really impacted on how you feel about yourself. It could be about your weight, it could be about your capabilities, about you as a person, it could be about all sorts of things. So you might want to just take some time to think about the topic that you want to use this on. I'm going to use some of examples of my own experience, which I've tapped on lots of times before, and so I can say to you that this has really worked for me personally. So if you just want to follow along with me, you can change anything that I say that suits you best. Just change it as we go round. If I say something that you don't like or it doesn't feel comfortable for you to say, then please do change that again to something that is more relevant for you. Also, another thing I like to mention is to make sure that you trust what comes to mind. So when we're tapping, if some things come up for you, then I would just change the wording to whatever it is that's come up into your mind. And once we finish doing a round of tapping, what you can do is make some notes about things that have come up if you really want to. Also, the other thing to note is that with any energy work, drink plenty of water after you finish the session. So it just clears any toxins and things in the body. So I'm going to start off by tapping on the side of my hand here. So even though, and I want you to follow me in the tapping and what I'm saying. So even though I don't feel like I'm worthy, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I don't think I'm a good enough person, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I don't really know who I am, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I don't feel like I'm a good enough person. My dad never accepted me. I was never good enough for him. I don't feel worthy. I was never good enough for my dad. I don't feel very good about myself. He was always asking me when I was going to change. I don't feel like I'm worthy. My dad always made me feel I wasn't good enough. Take 3 deep breaths. Now, after you've taken those deep breaths, you might want to make some notes if anything's come up. Pay attention to anything that's going on physically in your body. You can always tap on that, if you've got some sensations going on in the body. But what I'd like is if you can just carry on following with me whilst we go through this setup, and then you can change it to suit yourself afterwards. So even though I don't feel good enough and I'm always comparing myself to other people, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I always look at other people as better than me, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I never felt like my parents really accepted who I was, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I always felt rejected by my parents. I never felt good enough. That made me feel really bad. I just felt useless. Like no one wanted to love me. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not a good enough person to love. If I want love, I need to be someone else. I wasn't good enough for my parents. They always expected more from me than I wanted to give. They didn't accept me as I am. And now I find it hard to accept me as I am. I just don't feel like a worthy person. I've got low self-esteem, and I just don't feel good enough. Nothing I do is good enough. No matter how hard I try, it's never enough. Nothing is ever enough. Take 3 deep breaths. Now again, you need to pay attention to any thoughts that came up, any sensations in the body. Again, you might want to make notes so that you can do another one of these in a while after this video, and use more of your own things that are going to be more relevant to you. Also, what you might want to do at this stage is start to see where you are in this 0 to 10 scale. So if in the beginning you measured how you feel from 0 to 10 and it was an 8, for example, it might have gone down, it might have gone up. And there's no right and wrong. And actually when it moves in either direction, that's a good thing, because it's showing you that something's happening. It's showing you that you're shifting something. And it usually, well, pretty much always, if you're persistent and specific and consistent, it will come back down. And where we want to get to is to get to a 0. And that is certainly possible, doable, and I've had this happen very many times with my clients. So why don't we just continue doing another round? So even though my self-esteem is really low as an adult, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though as an adult I still don't feel good enough, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I'm always comparing myself to other people, I never feel good enough as I am. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I don't feel good enough as I am. I try so hard, but I never feel it's enough. Nothing I ever do is enough. I am not enough. I have never been enough. My parents struggle to accept me as I am. I don't feel worthy. It's really hard to accept myself for who I am today. I find it hard to accept me as I am. Take 3 deep breaths. So this is just a demonstration of what you can do with EFT and how it can help you with how you feel about yourself. And you'll notice things shifting in your body. Things will come up, either you'll feel physical sensations or you'll notice a difference in how you think and how you're feeling. So I hope you enjoyed that. And as I say, it's a really good idea. If you want to have a look at my YouTube video with the breathing exercise, then I really suggest doing that. And then obviously replaying this video so that you can carry on with this practice whenever you need it, and you can use it on anything, as I said before. So good luck, and if you need a copy of a printed handout, which I do have for this, then please do get in touch. My email is joe@joehuey.co.uk. Thanks and take care.
My 3-step programme consists of this video, an ebook and my online module. Each one increases your knowledge about self-esteem and how it's been affected by living with an alcoholic. As a child, this has had a massive impact, but it doesn't always stop there. It carries on into your adult life. If you want to gain back your self-esteem, confidence and self-worth, step 2 is the mystery of self-esteem for families of alcoholics. You'll learn 12 of my top tips and insights which I've tried and tested, so they definitely work. Step 3 is a more in-depth online module full of my own learning and experience. I've crammed in all sorts of techniques that work. They're easy and practical to put in place with long-lasting results. They've been written in a way that will make sense to you because I know the sort of thing that you've experienced. Even though our situations are unique, we feel the same way in a lot of areas. You have to be serious about wanting positive change for yourself because this program requires dedication and commitment. If you want a happier, calmer and more fulfilling life, just visit my website joehuey.co.uk/self-esteem to continue your journey.